right, let's take a look at our pieces parts. Obviously the fueling cam support plate, much more stout than the Harley, all billet, very strong, won't warp. Larger oil pump, better scavenging, better oil pressure. The 465 Reaper cam. We're going to be putting in the stud kit for the rocker arms and all the ARP hardware, new tappets, which I'm going to pre-soak in this oil right here. Always the gaskets we need. Again, if you know from my earlier videos, I'm a big proponent of one-piece push rods, not dealing with the adjusters coming loose and the flexing of the rod. This is really a better setup if you can do it. It's just more work because you have to remove all the rockers, and a lot of guys just want to cut the push rods. Again, from earlier videos, not something I like to do. So, also going to be running the fueling breathers, the billet breathers, which this is really a nice piece compared to the stock plastic one. I'll show you the install on these when we get to it. I've also pre-installed, let's see, I did put a new tire on, which I had to do, and the Paul Yaffe handlebar clamp with the 3 set screws because the customer said his bars were moving. We're all set there, so I'm going to get cleaning up all my parts, explain a couple things, and let's get going. I just want to point something out as I'm cleaning these parts. I'm also making sure I examine everything, like on the tappets, before I put them in my little oil bath here. I want to make sure the retaining clip is seated correctly in the tappet body. And I've had a couple of these pop out in the past, and I always put my fingertip on the roller here, make sure it's nice and smooth. And I also put my fingers on the pin to make sure that's retained correctly. And then we'll pop it in our oil. Just the small things that matter. Also, when I was cleaning the cam, you get it nice and clean. Make sure you look at the numbers on the back. Make sure they installed the right cam in the kit. Make sure you don't have one that's, you know, what would happen if they gave you a really large lift cam, you didn't check it. You didn't check your clearances in the case, you'd have a problem. Or you go to start it, you'd have a problem because you didn't run performance springs, is where this is a bolt-in cam, so we don't have to run performance springs. And speaking of springs, I already have installed EBC 3 clutch springs. So those are already in also. We're just trying to move along on this project so I can keep it going here because I'm leaving town again next week for another motorcycle inspection to another state. So I'm all over the place. But again, clips in place, rollers good, pins in place. And then some other things too on the install I'll show you, like with the tappets. Now fueling wants you to put the feed holes facing each other, so one like this, the other one will be this way with the feed hole. Harley doesn't make you do that. I'll do it the way fueling wants. Another little tech tip for you. When I'm pulling out the original INA bearing, you can see there's a space in the cage here between every bearing. We're putting in a Torrington full complement bearing, which is much better, handles much more load. But you can see with my removal tool, I was very careful when I'm installing it, and I try to pinch these ends in the best I can, because I've had this happen once before. The tool went in, broke the little plastic cage in here, and the bearings dropped in the lower end, and I had to split the cases. So you have to be really careful when installing this tool, not to just jam it home, because you can break this and lose a bearing, and then you got to go find it. It's usually splitting the cases to do it. What I always do prior to going any further, I look at the cage and I make sure all the bearings are in place, and I don't have to worry about thinking there's one inside. Just another public service announcement from Bill Miko and Motorcycle Garage. It might save you a lot of time later. You'll also notice what's nice about the Jim's tool is that there's a step on the tool on the driver here, so we'll install our full complement Torrington cam bearing to the right depth. No need to go in with a vernier after and try to measure it. We can just do it simply with this tool. It bottoms out and you're done and good to go. Again, always press letter side out. Confirm that. It's on our tool. We'll get everything lined up here. What I like to do is kind of pre-run this in and get it till it just touches. And then I back it off. I can help guide it. It takes a little practice, but it works well. And then I always like to take a peek with a flashlight just to make sure we're looking good here in the bore of the case. which we are. That looks good. And we're ready to do our install. I'm doing the install. I like to run all 4 screws. I'm doing the removal. I just use the 2 because it's pressure in, not out. All right, start off nice and easy here. It should go in. Oh yeah, it's going good. And again, this will bottom out when we're in the right position. And you could use a socket on this, but I don't know. For some reason, I think I get a better feel using a wrench. Take a peek. Yeah, we're pretty close. Should be bottoming out here any second. That's it, we're bottomed out. Just double check it with a light. Yeah, we're looking good. I am forever getting little metal splinters. My hands have gone through hell in 48 years of motorcycles. And they're starting to feel it now. There's some sore in the morning. Takes a bit to get warmed up, I'll tell you. And again, what I like to do, once it's installed, I will look at it, make sure letter side out, yes. And I also want to roll my finger in here inside the rollers. I like to feel that, make sure it's moving freely, there's no bind. Make sure something didn't happen during the install, we didn't crush it, and it feels good. So now we're ready to install our pump and cam support plate. All right, I've already checked the clearances of the cam. You want to make sure you don't have any clearance issues with the back lobe, or possibly if it was a really high lift cam, you could have some issues with the case here where the tappets are, but not with this 465. So a liberal amount of oil here on the lobes and on the thrust surface of the cam where it mounts to the plate. One last visual check here for clearance. All looks good. Then we're going to install our plate again. Put some oil here on the thrust surface, the surface where the cam will be riding, and the pinion shaft. We should be pretty well lined up here. We have our flats going north and south. New O-rings installed. And we always put the scavenge O-ring on the pump here. You'll notice I've left the pump loose also. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna check our alignment again though. Have this handy dandy alignment tool from Jim's. There we go. And then you're gonna wanna push with your thumb here to try to get that O-ring into position. There we go. All right. Sometimes these things fight you a little bit. I'm going to show you something. Pause it here. All right, move the position here of the camera to give you a little bit closer look. You'll notice there's a little bit of play in the dowel that's right here in the plate. So what we're going to do is put our screws in loosely and rotate the crankshaft and then tighten our screws to help center this, because this should actually be a tighter fit from the factory, but it's just how they do it. If you take the time to do the alignment now, and then I will do the pump after, that's why these 2 screws are in here just touched, and then I back them off about a quarter turn, and then we'll do the oil pump alignment. Again, fueling wants you to use Moly lube or ARP fastener lube on these threads. I still clean them. I use Loctite primer, or again acetone, which is basically the same thing. And I will use a slight amount of blue Loctite because I have had these loosen in the past and it's caused problems. So I use Loctite. I know Luke and the guys over at Fueling would rather not have you do that, and the main reason for that is because guys goop it on, they use so much, and then it causes clearance issues. Don't overdo it. First 4 threads, I even run my finger over it after. I don't want excess Loctite. But I haven't had issues with it getting on the surface of the pump, so it hasn't been an issue for me. Again, I like to run screws in by hand. That way I'm always feeling for binding. It'll be the first time a screw binds up and you end up snapping it or damaging the case, the threads in the case. You don't need that. So we're just going to snug these. And then I'm actually going to back them off. Now they're snugged up, we're going to back them off just about a half a turn. Now, what we're going to do is rotate the engine over. Rotate this. You can see the plates moving slightly. And then we're just going to snug that one. And I'm going to snug this one. The crank is going to help align this plate. These are barely touching still. So we'll do our cross pattern here. And we'll torque the screws. We'll do 120 inch-pounds, 100 to 120 is the spec. And we'll rotate this again just to make sure it's nice and smooth. Look at that. Did I mention our crank run out was about 3.5 thousandths? Okay, so not only do we line up the oil pump, I always line up the cam support plate also. So we did the plate first, and now we're going to do our pump alignment. Same procedure. Screws go in, they just touch. I back off 2 of the pump screws. I will put a little bit of blue Loctite on here. Again, fueling doesn't recommend that, but that's what I like to do. If you're careful, it's not going to be an issue. We will torque the 2 screws once I get the alignment, and then we'll put the other 2 in and torque those again to 100 and 120 inch-pounds. I use 120. Oh, those are Allen's, dumbass. Just till they touch, back it off, touch, back it off. It should spin nice and smooth, which it does. Now, we've already cleaned these. We'll put a little Loctite on them. First 4 threads, make sure there's no excess, so it will not cause any problems later. This time, we will use the socket. Snug it. 120 inch-pounds. Now we'll install our 2 other screws. We'll remove the initial alignment screws, which were Allen's. Again, I use just a touch of Loctite. First 4 threads. Nothing on the tip of the screw. No excess. And that's how you get a nice, perfectly aligned oil pump. And I will check the rotation one more time. Smooth here. Look at that. Nice. Easy peasy. Nice and smooth. To do it like this, it definitely takes more time, but it's worth it because you know when you're done, it's perfect. And my motto is, from a good friend of mine, Jeff, used to say this to me all the time, perfect is good enough. All right, the top bolt, the cam bolt, 34 foot-pounds. That's good. And our crank or pinion shaft. I still call it a pinion shaft, but a lot of people call it a crank. We will do 24 footy-pounds. All right. That's it. Now we will install our oil-fed chain adjuster here, and we'll be good to go. Double check our timing marks, which are good, and this assembling's coming along rather well. All right, I have our S&S Tappet cuffs installed. I used a 2000 feeler gauge on both sides of the flats of the lifter body to make sure it was perfectly aligned. And then you also notice I rotated the engine to make sure that these, you know, had no binding. They have play. I can slightly move them. Everything's good. And we torqued the screws to 120 inch-pounds, and we used blue Loctite. So now we can install our Tappet covers and our cam cover. Again, another tech tip for Motorcycle Garage. You'll see when I installed this stud, I don't do the double nut trick because that's a pain in the butt. I have an acorn nut here with a ball bearing that I let this, when this is sitting in my box at night, there's a magnet next to it that keeps it in place. So it magnetizes this, and I have a little bit of grease in here. Obviously you don't want to drop the ball bearing into the engine. That would be a pain in the butt. You know, you have to go fish it out up here in the rocker box. But anyway, you torque this to 5 foot-pounds and just remove this, easy peasy. Just another public service announcement from me at Motorcycle Garage. Oh, and P.S. I hope I don't get a copyright strike, YouTube, because I have the Smiths on in the background. Love the Smiths. Listen to them all the time. Whew. All right, guys, engine is together. All I have left to do is throw the exhaust on it in the morning, footboard brackets in the front and the passenger ones, obviously in the back, pop the fuel tank on, and then we'll have to do some tuning. He already has a Thunder Max. I installed this, I don't know, maybe last year. Obviously, already has a S&S head pipe, and I don't know if he's running Chrome, I think Chromeworks mufflers. Maybe S&S, I don't remember, but already has that stuff. We'll be able to wrap this up tomorrow and probably deliver to him sometime Saturday. So, because I have to travel again, obviously, on Tuesday, going to another state. I have another bike to inspect, so I'm a busy man. It's a lot of work for one guy, but we'll knock this out tomorrow and we'll go from there. See if this thing will start up and turn on the ignition. I'm just going to run it for a quick few seconds. I want to get it down. I don't want to get it too hot. I got to clean it up. I'm going to have to do some map work in the Thunder Max. And I'm also going to want to monitor our oil pressure. All right, let's give it a start. All right, that's it. Wash it up, detail it, get it back in here. I'm going to tinker with the map a little bit with the Thunder Max. As I had described it in the first video, he already had, I put a Chromeworks exhaust on this last year, S&S head pipe, and a Thunder Max ECM. All right, guys, our Street Glide engine project is done. The fueling cam plate kit with the oil pump, 465 Reaper cam, S&S Tappet cuffs. Obviously, we have the Chromeworks exhaust with an S&S head pipe. Thunder Max, which I've gone in and tweaked a little bit, and really didn't have to do a lot from the base map that was in there. It's running pretty good. I already test rode it. New front tire, Paul Yaffe handlebar clamp, so the handlebars no longer move. I guess he can tell his friend or his brother-in-law, whoever it was, use the one-piece clamp next time. Other than that, it runs great, and let me fire it up for you. And you really get that nice, you know, Harley old school V-twin idle back. The twin cams with their stock cam timing, they just don't have that with the 4-valve heads. But when you change the cam, man, that rumble comes right back, just like you know, the Evo days almost. I'd actually say it's even a little more rumble than a twin cam. So let's see. And that's it. I hope you have enjoyed another episode of Bill on Bikes here on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Send in any comments. If you have any questions, you can always call me at the shop. Reach out to us on YouTube. Also, we have Bill on Bikes on Facebook. You can reach out to us over there also, and I'll get back to you. I just don't know exactly when. I am going to do a little bit of work on our Springer project. I'll be here Monday, and then Tuesday I'm off to another state for another bike inspection. I'll be gone for a few days, and then I should be back on Friday and Saturday in the shop for another couple weeks, and then I got to leave again for California for some more bike inspections. So my forensics business keeps me really busy. This business keeps me really busy, but I still love it. 61 years old, still going strong, happy, and just have a great life. And this has been a great career, and I absolutely love it. So we'll see you next time. I hope this was informative. And again, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate all of you. And I will see you next time on the next episode of Bill on Bikes. Take care.